I dropped down right onto the poor unsuspecting gonk. Knife into the eye socket, slight jerk to scramble everything, and other hand grabbed tight onto his throat, squeezing to make sure not a sound could escape. The death rattle practically squeaked out, and I held the body in the shadows as it twitched its final times. Only once I was sure it wasn't going to kick hard and hit something or make too much noise did I lower it to the metal grating. Taking just a second as I pulled free my blade to wipe it on his shirt, removing as much of the blood as I could. Kiroshi could track blood stains if I wasn't careful, so it was a good idea to remove as much extra blood to keep it from dripping as I could. 500 XP gained. I'd been slowly picking off this group one by one. Onryo was pulling her weight, and I had to admit, while I usually like to think complete stealth is better, there is definitely something for causing so much chaos that your enemies are just as unable to deal with you as if they didn't know you were there. I'd circled the entire area, and was hiding in the darkness of a few pallets when I heard the cry that they found my most recent kill. The fear that I could hear in their voices was delicious, and I couldn't help but smile as I fucked with the one screaming. Out of the corner of his eye Onryo would flash past, and the cry that he'd seen her was all I needed. It gave me all the opportunity I needed to move. I leapt and slid into the open vent that ran above the hallway they'd all been coming in and out of. I'd heard the elevator inside going up, and I'd now heard it coming back down. I slid quickly on my belly along the metal venting until I found a spot I could peek down from. A long hallway, and I could now see the targeting laser of an HMG turret going back and forth. Hair. I wormed my way forward, until I could see it, and slipped inside. One moment to the next I opened my eyes, but I was the turret, slowly arcing back and forth, giving me a view of the tunnel from the end, and a few scavs that were huddling down at the end of the tunnel, guns pointed and whispering to each other. The temptation was there to just turn the HMG turret, but I held off. The elevator was coming down. I couldn't see as the elevator dinged open, but I heard it, with my real ears. "Get the fuck up. The fuck are you cowering for?" roared a booming voice, and the steps soon followed sounded like the footfalls of an elephant. The man that walked past the turret was huge, gorged out to hell and back. So I slipped through his security. I realized I was literally laying calmly just above this idiot, practically smiling as I felt like humming, but I never would, as I breached into his system. This had been an excellent test of the Onryo, but she still needed some work. I ended up turning over onto my back, relaxing as I used the turret to breach into each of the new scav systems, uploading Onryo and making some active adjustments. All I really needed was... That should work, agent vocal methods. Yeah, that would do it. Actively altering a hack as I listened to what the scavs were up to. Well, where is this runner fuck? Why isn't he dead yet? It's like a ghost, Dimitri. Nothing we do works. A fucking ghost. Fuck off. Well. Runner, come out so I can murder you already. I closed my eyes and smirked, overriding one of the scavs that had been down here the whole time. Time to make a show. Dash. Dmitry Agopov. Fuck off. Well. Runner, come out so I can murder you already. He roared, his eyes scanning. Third-gen Kiroshi let him find even sneaky fuckers, or so he thought, as he looked around and didn't get anything but the scan pinging the dead bodies. Who the fuck was this? Barghest? No, those fuckers would have crashed in with an APC and started shooting. This stunk, and Dmitry hardened his grip on his HMG. What do you mean I've been here the whole time? Whispered a sultry voice from behind him, and Dmitry shifted. One of the fuckers, he hadn't bothered to remember the name of, had just spoke. The look of horror on the gonk's face was registered. But his optics flicked to the woman that was wrapped around his throat, sharp claws clutching the man's throat. The fuck? It's the ghost, cried one of the others, and to his irritation opened fire. The woman cackled as the gonk fuck shot their own men. The ghost was untouched. Not a drop of blood, or a bullet pierced her. And then as the gonk slumped having been shot up, she slipped behind him, and as he fell the fucking bitch was gone. That was not normal. Naughty. That sultry voice echoed out and he turned. Another of his men was now clutched by the ghost, the voice coming out of his throat, not his own. But you can't stop me. Not until I get what I want, the man screamed, flailing around despite the grip the ghost had on his throat, and she cackled as she vanished once he broke contact. Did you have to stand still to be affected? Boss. Stay close. He demanded. Dmitri had seen open warfare. Sov Oil and Petrochem had been in a cold war with each other for years. It wasn't Arasaka and Militech, but the two companies knew who their rival was. He'd stared down Dragoon FBCs. He'd rode atop a tank piloted by insane Panzer boys, and yet he'd never fought a ghost. This was bullshit. He could feel the red rage flooding him, his bioman beeping, informing him of another fit. Yet, he didn't see an enemy. How could he fight with a ghost that disappeared before his eyes? His HMG shifted the barrel, slowly scanning, trying to find his target. What's wrong? Whispered in his ear, and he shifted, fingers scraping on his cheek, the sharpness so very, very real. He roared, pulling the trigger as he shot at the woman that had definitely just touched him. The HMG chugged, throwing the rounds through her body until she vanished before his eyes. He'd just mowed down Ivan. Bitch. He roared out, blood rushing through his ears. I'll kill you. He screamed. Oh, but why? We're becoming such good friends. Kill that one next. His ugly face annoys me. She whispered sweetly into his ear, and pointed at some fucker he didn't actually know the name of. His eyes widened behind the scav mask and he stepped back. Dmitri wanted to murder him just because he acted like he was going to kill the gonk. Fuck off. He roared, punching at the stupid ghost woman on his shoulder, only for faint laughter to come to his ear. His bioman beeped. What? He felt his heart pick up, adrenaline spike, and he roared as rage washed over him. How? What? Where was the enemy? What was his Kiroshi shifted, the fuckers around him? All of them had their IFF changed to red. Enemies? Here? Fucking die. He screamed as he unloaded. The sound of his bioman beeping in urgency was silenced, never to reach through his agent as he killed the traitors. Yes. This was their plan, to kill him. A ghost? Nonsense. These were just traitors. I was honestly a little surprised at just how effective that had been. Hacking into the Borg's agent had given me access to some of his cyberware, and well, his bioman had actually already been shrieking about panic attacks of all things. Trying to keep him calm, so I just flipped it around. A real big shot of adrenaline and a few other things. The man kept his blood pump, and he'd flipped out. I think I'd just sent the guy into a full-on cyber-psycho event. Cool. I still felt like humming but kept it to myself as he did all the work in murdering a few scavs. I was a bit disappointed not to get XP from the kills, but that was fine. There had only been a few left, and they did fight back. The Borg was bloody. A few of the scavs had fired on him when he started attacking them, and well, that was all to my benefit. He continued to pace around like a bear, screaming for the traitors to come out. For them to reveal themselves. I thought about taking him out. Warrior would do it without much issue, but I had a nice situation here. The appearance of Onryo flashed in his optics, the IFF in his optics marking it as an ally. She waved for him, and headed back inside. This was just fucking sinister. I felt myself grinning like some evil villain as he followed in a rush, not sure whether he was going to try and kill her or not, but he followed, all the way back inside, past my overwritten HMG turret, and into the elevator as I lured him in again. Then the elevator went up. Look at them. Traitors, they're going to kill you. Kill them. Onryo whispered in his ear, using his agent to speak to him, as she lured him into a bloodbath. Unfortunately, I opened my eyes and sighed. I couldn't see what was happening through his optics. I'd have to work on something that let me do that, so this game was over. I slipped back out of the vent and took just a moment to activate the HMG to fire at any of the scavs that came down. Then I looked over the now dead quiet construction site. I took my fingers and used them to make a little square like I was filming a movie and pointed them right at my Quadra, still sitting there nice and pretty. "Don't steal my car." I whispered loudly enough my BD recorder would pick it up, and then I hopped down to make sure everyone was actually dead. Stupid scavs. I kept a slight bit of attention on the connection I still had to the poor gonk that I'd just sent upstairs, and the alerts on his bioman to new injuries. That had actually worked out pretty well. I looked at the Quadra. I looked back up at the building behind me that I could hear gunshots hammering. I should just leave. I had my car. I'd killed scavs, earned some XP. Hiromi was probably worried. This was Dogtown. I had no idea what the politics of this place was like. I should just leave. On the other hand, fuck scavs. Fuck this place, and fuck people like them. The bioman confirmed my poor cyber psycho was dead. That meant there were more scavs. Disrupted, confused scavs. Easy to surprise and kill scavs. I turned and headed for the elevator. Just a few more murders wouldn't hurt. I headed back into the little pathway, reaching the HMG turret and the elevator, but I left the HMG where it was. As much fun as it would be to bring that up with me, she'd do a good job making sure no rats ran away. Besides, I was on a quest. The elevator closed behind me, and I closed my eyes to focus myself. My hand reached over and grabbed at the hilt of my katana. I was close to reaching that final number. Sensei would be very surprised if I manage it before I have to head back to the dojo. So now was my chance. I'd let Onryo play out down below, but here? Where things would be closer? I was going to be the deadly flash of a blade. The perfect cut. I whispered to myself, and the elevator opened, revealing the first room. The dead bodies of scavs already lay around. My pet Cyberpsycho had done his job. But I moved forward, calm strides, as I was on a sort of walkway around a lower floor room. It might have been pretty fancy if it wasn't half complete, and covered in scav entrails. I stepped forward and looked down, instantly seeing a few scavs, and my poor cyberpsycho. He'd been shot to hell laying in a slump in the center of the room. Ping went out, spreading golden lines across my vision, as I instantly started breaching into the scav system. Weapon glitch, uploaded into their network, and then I readied the next hack. Stepping up onto the railing, I stepped over and into the air, letting myself drop. Calm. Cool. The perfect cut. My foot touched the ground, and I activated my Sandevistan. Instantly I shifted my momentum forward and launched at the scavs that hadn't even registered I was there yet. The blade slipped from my sheath, with a whisper, flash of steel, and I was through the first scav. 500 XP gained. While their eyes went out, and a moment later my blade slipped through an open neck, sliding out, to cut through the second scav's arm that had been raised up to fire at Omaha, which never fired. Limb and gun flipped away as I finished the final cut, and all the scavs in the room slumped dead. My neck burned lightly, but I breathed in and out. More. I needed a bit more to find that perfect cut. To push myself just a little bit farther. I turned towards the hallway leading out of this lower room, and followed the golden lights. The next scav I found never even realized he was dead, as I simply cut through him and moved into the room he had just left. Sandevistan activated, giving me the time I needed as I rushed forward. The two scavs in the room shifted up in shock, crying out, rising to their feet, before I made them blind and I reached them. First the arm to remove the gun, and then a single strike through the neck, head flying. I considered it for a moment a blissful, perfect moment as my Sandevistan kept everything still. My hand reached up, grabbing dirty hair, and I spun, sending the now decapitated head soaring through the air right into the blind face of his compatriot. I gave it a moment, mostly because I wanted to see what would happen. I watched as he stumbled back, sputtering and shrieking, blind to the world. 1 step. 2 step. 3 step. 1 step too many. There was a hole in the wall, and nothing but open air. He fell back, screaming for a long while. 500 XP gained. I turned and moved to keep killing. To keep hunting, and more importantly, to find that perfect cut I needed to improve my blades. I cut through scav after scav. Blind flailing, weapon failing scavs, each of them nothing but bodies to cut down as I systematically removed their ability to harm me, and then simply removed them. Until I was chasing the last golden light, leaping down. I found a bridge just settling and a scav rushing across, a sort of drawbridge of all things. I chased after, easily catching up, footsteps utterly silent, as instead of simply cutting him down, I kicked him square in the back, sending him smashing face first into the metal grill floor. Going somewhere? I asked, sexy Motoko voice, active and sinister. Fuck. Bitch. He cursed me as he spun around and raised a boya himself, the ball killer pointed and nothing. A noise of failure as he pulled the trigger a few times, earning the same thing. Mine's better. I offered and drew my own boya and fired. His shriek was music to my ears as I shot the boya right out of his hand, the shrapnel sending his flinching back and screaming. So this was it? A pathetic scav crying as he held his bloodied hand. No grand battle? I mean, this would be an awesome place to have a cool sword fight or something. I realized that I was expecting too much. This guy wasn't going to give me anything worthwhile. So instead of listening to his blabbering anymore, or even giving him the benefit of my own words, I just pulled the trigger. 1000 XP gained. Wait, that meant he was the leader? That guy? Crying on the ground guy? Geez, what a waste. That guy was good enough to take the entire scraper under his control, and craft it into a fortress. Of sorts, anyways. That guy? How embarrassing. Too bad their little fortress wasn't good enough to even slow me down. I looked out over Dogtown from a few stories up and just watched all the people move around. Then I blinked as I recognized something. Huh. I blinked my eyes as I made a call, and then used that to route through a connection. Ichi picked up the call. Motoko. There you are. Hiromi is freaking out, but we got a location. Everything good? It's fine, Chum. I replied, not through the call, but as the Onryo, sitting right beside him in his van. I smirked as I watched the van jerk a bit as Ichi definitely freaked for half a second before getting control so he didn't smash into the little side street he was heading down. Jesus Christ, Motoko. What the fuck? Sorry, Chum, just trying out a few things. I'm fine. Head straight from where you're going and then hit a right when you can't go anymore. There's a drive down into an old construction lot. I've cleared everything, so get looting. Loot, all right, well, you sound good. You found your car? Yep. Killed the gonk that stole it, and the gonks that he sold it to. Anyone with you? Yeah, I got Malcolm and Rebecca in the back. Hiromi is still at the Heavy Hearts. She demanded I come help you before we pick her up. That's sweet of her. I was pretty mad, so I rushed off. I'll give her a call now. Just start grabbing stuff. They took over this entire scraper, so there might be a lot of stuff up here to grab too. No shit? He asked, obviously sounding very interested. No shit. All right, I'm out. I hung up and instantly called Hiromi, who didn't hesitate before picking up. Motoko. Tell me you're okay. I'm fine, Hiromi, everything is cleared up here, and Ichi is pulling up too. Good timing on his part. You sure? It's been a while, Motoko. You had me worried. Sorry, Hiromi, it just took me a while to clear this place out. Ichi is pulling up in his van right now, so we're going to loot up. You want me to come pick you up first, Or just get looting. It's best to just loot things. I'm fine here, I guess. I'm glad you're okay. No problem, Choom. We'll talk soon, bye. Dash. Yo. I called out as I stepped out of the entryway path to the elevator to see Rebecca, Malcolm, and Itchy all already looting. Motoko. Yo. Malcolm greeted, grinning like a loon. Looks like you had a hell of a scrap. It actually wasn't that bad. I used a new quick hack and basically made them go crazy. Remember my Onryo hack? I asked him, and he blinked and just shook his head. Nope. Remember me now? Whispered my voice in his ear as my claws ran up along his throat. Fruggle. Fuck. Motoko. Malcolm hissed, waving his arms as if trying to dispel the illusion that was already gone. He. I cackled and Rebecca looked from him to me confused. So I winked at her, and started hacking, which she noticed and instantly crossed her arms. Hey! Don't even think about it, Strings, no hacking. Or. I whined at her while smirking evilly. It's really funny though. No. She pointed and I raised my hands in surrender. Okay. So how's looting coming? Mostly trash so far. That guy had a graduate. Rebecca pointed at weapon resting against Itchy's truck as Itchy stepped off the truck, grabbing a few weapons and then bringing them into the back to store away. Preem, there's a ton of stuff upstairs too. We'll need to gather everything we can. I said loud enough for all three. One step ahead of you, Motoko. Itchy called out, and came around the back of the truck pushing a loader. All right, I'll show you both where the elevator is. I called out to the boys and guided them back to the tunnel, making sure to disable the HMG turret, which both boys were already eyeing. Go on, get that later if you want it. I told them, laughing, and went back to help Rebecca. Hey Strings. Come nab these, will you? She called out, waving as I approached where Rebecca was squatting over one of the corpses. It was one of the more borged out guys that came out with my pet cyber psycho. Oh, Eddie's shards? Yep. You can get them right. Yeah. I confirmed, although I didn't usually think about it. I leaned down and after a few seconds the shard port popped the shard out, which I collected. Rebecca grinned, seemingly pleased at the minor eddies on shards like these, and immediately started grabbing guns. I shrugged. If it made her happy, we were making good progress and frankly there was a lot of stuff. Itchy was actually considering heading out with his van and coming back with the behemoth, and Hiromi was angling for that, but I kind of wanted to just get the good stuff and get out. I took a break from grabbing loot to head to my quadra. My old shard literally didn't work anymore, and that alone pissed me off all over again. I'd ended up breaking into my own car just to figure out what the hell had happened. That device the gonk that stole my car had, really was a shard writer. It reset the vehicle to a new shard, basically rekeying the car. The fact was my old shard really was useless. I had to flash a new shard as I wasn't sure which of the gonks had actually kept my car's new shard, and I didn't want to find out. Rekeying my car took a while, and when I finally opened the car I rolled my eyes at the mess inside. The fucker had obviously been going through some shit. Mostly my grenade box was opened, and from the way it looked, I'd put money on him realizing it was a bunch of grenades and doing everything possible to ignore that fact. People were so squeamish about explosives in the same car as them. But there was something missing. Tachikoma? I'd set it on guard mode, but where was it? I reached out with the control shard and it did instantly connect, which had me relaxing, but when I looked through the Tachikoma's eyes I could only see darkness. I bent down and stuck my head entirely under the seat. How did you get back there? I couldn't help but wonder, as it was not just under the seat stuck as it struggled weakly trying to move, but was even upside down. I reached in and with a bit of untangling got it free and flipped back right side up. It wiggled a little. It must have reacted to the intrusion on the car, but got itself stuck under the seat. We really need to work on your thought process, I told it, as I settled it on the passenger's seat, and double-checked my car's computer. The rekeying device was very brute force, and the last thing I needed was my poor car to fry its own computer. Thankfully, whoever had made the thing was talented. It hadn't fried anything, simply disrupted the normal system long enough to switch keys. All good, Chum. Rebecca called out as she stuck her head in the cab. Yeah, I rekeyed my car, and thankfully nothing is fried or broken. Damn. You said this was from a piece of tech? She asked, and I pulled the carjacker out from my jacket pocket and handed it to her. Wait, really? This thing stole your car? Yeah, it took a bit. It needs to break the security and then slowly convince the car that a new shard is the key, but that's what it does. Huh. Rebecca whispered, folding it over in her hands as she looked at it in interest. You want it? I offered, because that was a greedy look on her face, all right. Wait, really? You sure? I don't need it, Becca. If I want to break into a car and steal it, I just break into it and steal it. That thing would take like 10-20 minutes minimum on most vehicles, and I doubt it'll work on the real top-of-the-line stuff. Malcolm's Caliburn is safe. Hair. I bet he'd shit his pants if I pulled up one day driving his baby. Becca whispered evilly, and I couldn't help but giggle at the thought. No stealing Malcolm's baby. I really don't want to get a call from him freaking out. Again. All right. Thanks, Chum. I mean, I got my own car now, but... She grinned a bit evilly. There's this one car I've had my eyes on, but never really had the eddies for, you know? Just don't get caught, or better yet have some backup or something. Nah, I know the owner. A real asshole. Used to make fun of me for always walking when Pillar took the car. Ah. Revenge. Got it. The moment was ruined as I heard a heavy engine rumbling getting close suddenly. Rebecca instantly reacted, rushing to grab her HMG while I stood up to see what was happening. Barghest was here. The former Militech soldiers had very specific colors and mods to their rides, and one of their rides just turned the corner onto the ramp down into the construction site. The thing looked like someone took a truck, put a van on top of the frame, and then stuffed it with armor and weapons. Dangerous. Very dangerous. Itchy, Malcolm, we have company of the unfriendly variety. I called out to the both of them on our call channel, and then casually took a position at the back of the Quadra, leaning against it as I watched the vehicle slow down, and a few Barghest guards clambered out. Kids. They were basically kids. Not that much older than I was. 3 boys touting copperheads and body armor to try and look mature. But I doubt any of them could even shave, and one older guy. Definitely an actual soldier. He had the look in his eyes. Evening. I called out loud enough for them to hear as I continued to lean against the back of the Quadra. You are not Daniil, or a member of his group. The big guy called out. He was carrying a nice Crusher, the Militech shotgun. Definitely modded out too. Nope. I responded just as calmly. If you're talking about the Scav group that used to live here, they came down with an unfortunate case of dying horribly. My words had the intended effect. The old soldier didn't bat an eye, but the 3 kids were pointing out the dead bodies still lying out where they had fallen. Joking around and whispering to each other about the bodies. Focus up. The old man snapped, and the kids went rigid, their joking ending, and their guns all settling into grips ready to fire if needed. Good training, but not that good. I'd been hacking them from the moment they stepped out of their beast of a rig after all. The big guy stepped closer, close enough we were no longer shouting at each other, and he looked me up and down. There was a flicker in his face. No doubt he was trying to square the situation. Teenage girl with a lot of chrome sitting in the middle of a former Scav base that was now a graveyard. His brain was no doubt fighting against the reality of what was in front of him. To my surprise, he nodded simply. Not gonna ask why you felt the need, not my biz, not Barguest's biz, but they were affiliates. Taking 'em out? That's gonna cost you. He rumbled out in a gravely voice. Was this guy trying to get eddies out of me or something? Not sure what you want, these gonks stole from me, I came back to collect. Far as I'm concerned, the business is done. If Barguest wants something, then Barguest is going to need to be frank about what, and why. 'Cause I'm just not seeing where they would get a cut. Hair. You just came to clear out all these slime fucks, without a fixer? That's not very smart. They stole from me. I repeated, and the man actually had a smirk on his face at my words. I can respect that. Even appreciate it. Not like these scop suckers are worth much. But still. Barguest had a deal with them. We like to keep things peaceful. People that break the peace disrupt the way things are. It causes us trouble. We have to explain why something happened when things are supposed to be quiet, peaceful. And what does Barguest want? 'Cause I don't talk eddies or deals. The only thing I deal in is death. I repeated, because I hated this sort of stuff. Just tell me what you were trying to rip me off for and we could go from there. Oh wait, that actually sounded pretty cool. Good job, Motoko. You said something preem. The Barguest kids were chuckling at what I said, but weren't taking me seriously, but the older man? He just nodded. The cost for something like this is standardized. I'll pass the deets. He offered somewhat kindly, in the gruff manner the man had, and I got a text which had actually costs for attacks and things on Dogtown grounds. This was. You had to be fucking kidding me. This is the weirdest shit I've ever seen. NCPD has never tried to demand bribes so blatantly. NCPD are a bunch of morons. Colonel knows what's up. Alright, give me a minute. I'll send this to my numbers gal. This is fucking hilarious. I sent the message to Hiromi, along with an explanation, and just continued to lean back against the quadra. It took a minute, but I got a response back, and Hiromi telling me to give her a minute to look everything over. So I just relaxed, waiting. The soldier chilled out. Even though I noticed that his eyes flickered to Becca, who was staying mostly hidden every once in a while. Don't worry. If a fight breaks out, you'll be too busy dealing with me to worry about her. I offered to the man, and there was that flicker in his eyes of surprise, before his face broke into a grin. Yeah, I think you're right on that. He gruffed out a laugh, and actually seemed to truly relax. Never liked these assholes. Always caused problems, liked to grab people they shouldn't and pretend they hadn't done shit. Biz is biz, but I appreciate them being gone. Hell of a lot of gonks to flatline in an afternoon. It wasn't too bad actually. I had to rush things a bit at first, 'cause they had my car. Some gonks stole it from the stadium parking lot, and I had to rush all the way here to make sure they didn't sell it off, or start taking it apart. After that, it was just systematic. I shrugged, and my low-key response gave me a respectful nod. Hell of a job with just a few. You got what, 3, 4 upstairs? And that one with the HMG? Oh, they arrived after. I cleared the place before they got here. They're just here to get a return on my time investment. I offered, smiling at the semi-corpo speak. Hiromi would have been so proud if she heard me just then. Just you. Just me. I assured him, and the kids were scoffing none too quietly. Don't believe me? I asked them if one of them spoke to me, only after glancing at the old man. Fuck no. You're a kid, no hardware or shit. Those shitty arms of yours aren't impressing. The kid offered, showing off his own left arm, which was a pretty high-end Militech prosthetic. I've never had any issues with my Condors. Good Militech hardware. Solid. I responded back, and to my surprise the old man nodded. Good replacements. Nothing flashy, but easy to install and handle. Exactly, and just for your information. I recorded a brain dance of the whole thing. Give it a few days or so, and it should hit the market. You can see for yourself what this kid can do. I smirked, although I guess I shouldn't be too judgy. I'd been thinking of him as a kid the whole time as well. No shit? He asked, and his buddies looked interested as well. But my eyes flashed as I got a call. Mind if I take this? I asked, and got a shaken head. Motoko. I got it handled, geez. How dare these idiots think they can try to push? Hiromi. Focus please. Oh right. Sorry. Everything is paid, and not these extortionist rates. I contacted Bargast's guest services and got it taken care of. Tell them it's sorted. My number girl says everything is sorted with your guest services. Tisk. Damn it, Sarge. One of the kids cursed. Fuck that, I wanted to get paid. Not how it works. I'll check in, and if that's the case, we're done here. The old man offered and I nodded, and then not a few minutes later he nodded to me, his eyes turning back to normal as he turned and headed to the vehicle they had come in on. Man. You're so lucky. We'd have taken you out. One of the kids offered, pointing a finger at me, and making a shooting noise. So I shrugged, popped open my truck and hefted out my Uragan. Not if I took you and your giant target out first. I explained, and that caused all three kids to jump, and the Sarge to shift, looking ready to fight before I simply put my rocket launcher back in the trunk. They hurried out of there, but not before the Sarge gave me a look with all sorts of meaning. Itchy, Malcolm. Hurry up. I don't know how much longer we'll have for things to be quiet. Dash. After the Bargast thing, we decided to pack up what we had and get out of there. Itchy, Malcolm and Rebecca split off to leave Dogtown while I went to pick up Hiromi from the Heavy Hearts. As I pulled up, she was already waiting outside, which wasn't great. I'd prefer if she had stayed hidden inside, but she walked over as I popped the door and stepped half out. Hey. Sorry for the wait. Hiromi gave me a once-over and nodded and slipped into the Quadra without a word. Strange. I got back in and started off. Hiromi wasn't on a call or anything. I made it to the checkpoint and then through before finally poking her. Everything okay? No. She replied back, and that didn't sound good. Hiromi? What's wrong? This is my fault. You've been warning me about Dogtown from the start, and I blew it off. It's supposed to be pretty safe, but Bargast didn't do anything. They just watched your car get stolen and then... Hiromi fell into a quiet rant as I drove through the city. It's not that. Motoko. It's... You're the one that takes care of things when things go bad, but I just ignored you, and so your car got klept while I was left standing there with nothing I could do. Hiromi, someone could have stolen my Quadra anywhere. This isn't a Dogtown thing, and that pains me to say it because I have been warning you that Dogtown is dangerous. But it's not that dangerous. Not really. I'm overblowing it. I know that. I grumbled. Sorry. Don't be sorry. You didn't do anything wrong. You still have my new Chrome, right? Yeah? Then it was all very worth it. Besides, we made some more eddies, and I had fun. You had fun? I had fun. I confirmed, smiling at her, and that thankfully earned a small smile in turn. Now, are we heading home, or do you want to come with me while I bug Vic for a late chip-in? I'll come with, she said firmly, and I nodded. It was always good to have backup when going under the Ripper's knife, even if I trusted Vic completely. It was a quiet drive into Watson. Finding a parking spot was actually the hardest part. The entire area was busy since the sun was going down and all the bars and clubs were filling up. This time, making sure my Tashikoma knew to actually alert me in case of any trouble, I set it up and left walking down the street arm in arm with Hiromi as both of us carried the bags of cyberware. We got plenty of eyes, because not just everyone walks down the street with an arm full of stuff, but none tried anything. I still had a sword on my hip, and luckily the weapon seemed enough to keep everyone off. Instead of going through Misty's, we entered through the alley entrance, as that was just closer to where we had parked the Quadra, and entered down the old steps into Vic's clinic. "Vic!" I called out as I entered, breaking away from Hiromi gently to run up to the older man. "Hey kid. I was getting worried, I expected you here hours ago." He rumbled out with that easy smile. "I've even finished watching the evening's matches." "Sorry. My car got klepped just after we bought the cyberware, and I had to chase it down, and then well. No point leaving good eddies on the floor." I explained with a happy smile that Vic looked a little discomforted by. "You all right? Any injuries?" "Nah, the scavs my car ended up with never even saw me. Literally. I used a new quick hack. It was fun." I gently started putting some of the cyberware bags on the table besides Vic, letting him eye up the chrome. "Ooh. Now that's a pretty piece," he mumbled, looking at the Camillo. "Gen 4? "Yeah," I confirmed as Hiromi walked over and placed the 2 pieces of chrome she'd carried in next to the others. "Oh? You really went all out, kid. X-Disc, RAM, ICE. Nice choice," he mumbled, shifting a bit in his chair to look up at me. "That one does my heart some good. A good defense is better than more offense a lot of the time." Hee. I couldn't help but flush a little at the pride in Vic's voice. I got praised. "She only bought it because it gives her more RAM," Hiromi whispered quietly, half behind her upraised hand. "Rude." "Ha ha ha." Vic busted into a big chuckle at Hiromi's snitching. "I figured it was something like that. It's good anyways. All right, kid, let me do a full clean and check on these parts. Especially since you bought them from Dogtown." "Yes please. The guy we bought them from was a bit sketchy. He held an official trade spot in the stadium." "He wasn't sketchy," Hiromi argued instantly, almost offended at how I considered her little trader. "He sold out of the back of a van. Super sketchy," I whispered, holding up a hand to cover my mouth just like Hiromi had done before. "Motoko." She half shrieked and went to slap at me, but I avoided her attack and danced away laughing as she gave chase a little. "All right, this'll take a few minutes. Why don't you kids have fun?" Vic called out, and I took the chance and ducked for the stairs. Hiromi followed after me in a sprint. "You brat!" she shrieked, giggling at me, and I laughed just as happily as I easily raced up the stairs, even doing a flip at the top of the stairs to turn me around so I could see Hiromi only halfway up chasing after me. "Be bullshit," she groaned at me, pointing, and I just laughed at her irritation. "No way slow Hiromi can ever catch me," I teased, and her face scrunched up in irritation. "Slow Hiromi? Fuck that, Motoko. Get your ass over here." She snapped and charged, and I just broke in laughter as at her chase after me, never quite managing a catch. Hiromi's failure made her face get more and more red, and her hands curl into claws as she was definitely going to make me pay for messing with her. I stuck my tongue out at her, because if I was already in trouble I should definitely make it worth it. "Motoko!" Hiromi screamed and started chasing, but we were both interrupted by a familiar voice. "What's going on out here?" Misty asked, sticking her head out of the back of her shop, and I realized we were probably making a lot of noise. If Misty had a customer, that wouldn't be very zen. I smiled and made my move. Hiromi, charging for me, actually hit me, which surprised her, and so I grabbed her thighs as she hit my back, and spun around until she grabbed on, and then once I had a Hiromi backpack I stopped and smiled at Misty. "Hey Misty, sorry for the noise. Just hanging out with my chum," I offered and made my way over. Hiromi adjusted herself against my back, even if her arm around my neck was a bit tight, as she grumbled in my ear. "Motoko and Hiromi, nice to see you both again. Want to come in?" she offered, and I nodded, following her into the shop. It would be a good thing to waste some time with until Vic checked everything over. Well, it's all clean now. Nothing too bad before. This X-Disc would have given you a nasty infection if you just stuck it in your head, and the RAM had a bug, but it was old. So probably wasn't your sketchy trader. He wasn't sketchy. Hiromi grumbled, and Misty and I shared a look and giggled. I might have been riling up Hiromi explaining the day to Misty and she was all grumpy about it. Thanks, Vic. I don't know what I'd do without you. Well, let's not find out. You ready for all of this? It's a lot of chrome, and you were trying to take things slow. I am. I've been taking it slow, but I do need to upgrade my rig a bit. I've got a Netrunner challenge coming up, and I'll need the upgrade. My words didn't really earn me any points, and Vic looked me over for a long moment, before nodding slowly. All right, kid. I'll trust you, but you know if it causes issues, you show up here, and I can pull it without much trouble. Always better to handle chrome slow. I'll do my best to handle any conflicts, but this is 4 different pieces that all need to talk to each other. I know. I think I'll be okay, but I'll take it slow. He nodded and patted the chair and I slid in, as he adjusted me up, to get access to my neural link, and then like usual his calm bedside manner took over, and he spoke soothingly, as he explained that he was pumping me with drugs that would loosen me up to make sure I didn't move while he was installing. Then after a quick pinprick as the drugs were injected I felt my whole body go loose, and he adjusted my head and started working. It was sort of soothing actually. I could feel it, almost from a distance, like dental work after you're completely numbed up. I could feel the vibrations and the effects of him moving my neck around, popping the access panels on my neck, but there was no pain, or real feeling of it. Almost got the old X-disc out. I'll put it aside and you can decide what to do with that after. He spoke into my ear, and if I could I'd have smiled. He could have it. It wasn't much good to me, and I didn't mind. I could feel my agent and system alert me to the cyberware removal, and my head felt a little empty for a few moments, before I could feel something else being inserted and slotted in. You okay, Motoko? Hiromi asked from the side, and I really wanted to smile at her or roll my eyes, but everything was pretty loosey, so instead I just sent her a quick text. Motoko, P. I think that's a yes. She whispered, and Vic chuckled lightly, but I noticed it didn't even cause his hands to shake. She's fine. The kid's a champ under the knife. A real chrome head if I've ever met one. It's a good thing she knows restraint. I've seen a lot of kids like her lose themselves. Motoko will never do that. Hiromi argued instantly, but she went quiet when Vic sent her a quick look I could just barely see out of the corner of my eye. That's what they all think. Don't worry, Motoko's a good one, and I'll do what I can to make sure she's on the straight and narrow. You do the same? And she'll be right as rain. Now let me get this RAM upgrade in, you'll feel a little pinch. The RAM slotted, and I felt the increase in functionality like someone just made my arm longer, or my hands stronger. I loved it. Yeah, Vic was right. I was a chrome head.